In this video, we're going to be installing the Koso heated grips on our Kawasaki KLR650. We chose the Koso heated grips because we like the integrated thumb controller control panel, so you don't have to wire a separate thing. And also we ordered directly from Amazon, and for this particular KLR we made sure we ordered the 7/8 on the left and the 1 inch on the right. And unfortunately they only come in 120 or 130 millimeter, but unfortunately for the KLR650 you're going to need 125 millimeter. So we're going to have to trim these and alter them a little bit to make sure they fit on our bike. So we're going to open the package and see what's inside. You can see they're pretty compact. We've got the grips and all the wiring attached to them. This will be the left side. As you can see, it's got the control right there built in. This will be the throttle side on this side. It also comes with some super glue and some end caps, but we will not be using the end caps for the KLR650. So basically I'll show you how simple it is. It really is just the whole connector piece. This is the actual controller. You push the buttons and this adjusts the different temperature settings. And that goes all the way down to basically the battery. But in our case, we're not going to connect it to the battery. We're going to connect it to the aux connector. I'll show you that next. So the aux connector that we're going to use for the heated grips is in this little bundle here. To get better access, it'd be easier just to trim this zip tie here. We'll put another one on afterwards. We'll pull this little rubber cover down. You can see the lead that we want to get to is right there. So we'll just remove that cover. As you can see, there's no wires attached to it. We bought this other adapter that mounts directly to this part from 3D Cycle Parts. And that will match right up there. Also from 3D Cycle Parts is a small little relay. Since we have the base model KLR, it didn't come with this relay. So this small relay will allow us to have switched power to all the accessories that we're going to add to the bike, including the heated grips. So that just fits in right there. There you go. Relay's in. Now we have power to all the auxiliaries. So with the relay installed, we'll check the voltage. Currently right now with this, the battery isn't plugged in, but we have the ignition's not on, so no power. Once we turn the ignition on, and we've got 12 volts. So the relay works like a champ. So here we'll compare the length of the stock bar to these 130 millimeter. And as you can see, they're just barely over. But the nice thing is, all you have to do is trim off this section right here. And the heating elements don't go this far deep, so it shouldn't be a problem. You will have to trim the rubber and then this inner plastic layer. So just get a really sharp X-Acto blade, got a fresh blade, and then trim it off. And go slowly around the whole thing. There you go. It's nice and easy. Taking your time. Cutting through the rubber and the plastic layer. There you go. Somewhat of a hack job, but it's not too bad. Really won't matter because it's going to be hidden. You won't even see that part of it. So that's the controller side, modified it. And now we'll do the same to the throttle side. So now we're going to remove the stock grips from the KLR by cutting them off. But first we got to remove this end weight. So we'll take the 6mm hex or Allen and take the end belts off. These things are on good. I guess that's good. They don't want to lose them. All right, so that's not budging. So we're going to do a little cheater bar, do the closed end wrench, and just torque it that way. See how that works. Gives a little more leverage. There it goes. Woo. Those are Loctited, baby. They're good. I'm guessing it has some pretty good Loctite on it. There you go, the red stuff. Do the same to the left side. Goodness. Whew. Broke it free. Oh, goodness. That's in there good. That's the end weight for that side. And here's where we basically cut a perfectly good handlebar grip. There you go. Now the same to the throttle side. Just be careful because you don't want to cut into that plastic underneath it. So, a little more gentle with this one. Alright, so now we just got to get all the glue off of here so we get the other handlebar on. Also, this is another modification that you might not be comfortable with, but this little lip here, we have to get rid of that lip. So we'll shave that off next. Nice and easy, take your time. To make things a little easier, I've actually removed the blade from the knife and I'm just kind of going along the edge and trimming this off until it's flush. So we've got this section pretty flat here, that little ridge. We're just going to rough it up a little bit with some sandpaper, not too much because you don't want to tear through this plastic section here. Just getting rid of a little bit of glue that's on there. Same thing to the other side, the clutch side. And you can see I got a little too, I'm gonna have to actually use some primer. Just paint this real quick. I'm just gonna mask off this little plastic part real quick and put some cardboard behind it. Just shoot a layer of primer on this. So we're waiting for the clutch side to dry. We'll start here on the throttle side. The nice thing is this Koso kit has quick disconnects for each of the grips, heated grips. So you don't have to worry about it. You can actually install them and then run the wires later. So we'll do that. So a couple of things you got to be wary of. When you put this on, you obviously don't want it to be flush against here or you're going to have some resistance. That's going to affect the throttle. So you want to have a little spacing there so you have free motion. You also want to watch the cable. So when you rotate the cable, you want to make sure it doesn't, one, get in the way of this switch here, But you also don't want it to get in the way of your brake controls either, front brake. So we're going to set it about right there and make sure that we have just a couple millimeters, 5 millimeters of space between this and the plastic housing. So once you got the alignment, know exactly where you want it, you use the included Koso super glue. And we'll put that on the, I'll just maybe one layer here and one on the bottom. That should be enough to hold it. Okay, I'll put some on the bottom here. All right, let's go. Come on, that's pretty easy. There, make sure we got plenty of room. Make sure it's situated right. Double check it before the glue dries. But that side was pretty easy. So here you can see the spacing, plenty of free motion. It's not locking up at all, getting trapped here. And then also this cable down here on the bottom. It's got plenty of room. I'll zip tie it right here. You can see it's got plenty of room. It stays out of the way. Okay, so now we're gonna zip tie this section, but you don't want to be too tight. If you're too tight, you won't have enough room. So just give yourself a little bit of room. Make sure you get full rotation, no binding. And then I just zip tie it here to the back. That's good. I'm gonna route this cable now. I don't think it's gonna fit through that one. So I'll route it through here. So then we're going to route it down through here. We'll keep it on the throttle side, the right side, at least for right now. There you go. I think that the paint is pretty much dry. So let's go to the clutch side. Okay, so now we're going to do the clutch side. This one is a bear. We're actually going to not use any super glue because it fits on there really tight and it's not going to rotate. So you do have to be wary though where you put the switch and the indicator. We want to set that up so it's right here, so we have access to all of our controls with our thumb. Okay, here we go. This is going to be really a bear. Come on. Alright, come on. Get on there, buddy. That is a lot of work. I guarantee it's not going anywhere once we get it on. Rotate it back and forth. Oh my gosh, that's tight. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so you see where we lined it up? Basically where the turn signal points, I just put it to the top of that. That should give me good access to flip it on, but still won't get in the way when I need to use my turn signal. Won't accidentally turn it on. There you go. Whew, that was a bear. Okay, now we'll run the wires. Just kind of run them along where the other cables go through this little section here. Keep them on the clutch side, on the left side of the bike. And then we'll go underneath here between the forks. And then through this little channel right here, cable guide. There we go. We're gonna just run a little zip tie right here. Connect these two cables together. So now we'll check to make sure there's no binding, not being pulled tight. Looks pretty darn good. Okay. So now that we've got the grip part done, we've got the wires run down to underneath the tank. We're going to move this wire under here so they're on the same side, on the left side. And there you go. And then we'll end up connecting these in from the controller. But what we're going to do is we don't want all this extra wire. So we're going to snip this wire here, and then we're going to solder it to a connector that's going to go directly into this connector that's already on the bike. And this connector you can buy from 3D Cycle Parts. So all we have to do is basically solder these two together. Alright, so for this next part we just have to snip these off, make them shorter, and then we'll end up soldering them together so that we can have a good solid connection between this and where I connect to the KLR. So for that we're going to need soldering iron, we'll need some solder, got some flux to clean up the wire braid that we connect together. Also we're going to insulate everything once we're done with the shrink wrap. So we have shrink wrap in various sizes, and we have a little heat gun too, so we can shrink the wrap over the joint. I'm going to pull back the insulation so we have about an inch showing. Let's snip this off. So we'll have the red will be a positive and the black will be negative. We also brought some wire strippers we had mentioned previously. We'll just strip off the end of that wire. And that should be about good. Enough so we can twist those two wires together. Now on the connector side, we'll shorten that as well. Strip these wires also. So before we twist these together and connect them, we'll basically make sure we have enough insulation. So we'll use 2 sets of insulation, the shrink wrap tubing. So the first one will be the one we're going to cover over everything once we're done with the job. And then we'll use a smaller shrink wrap to actually cover over the solder joint once they're soldered. So make sure these are well clear of where you're soldering, so they don't get too hot and end up shrinking on the wire. So there you go, we've got the shrink wrap for the solder joint, and then we'll have a shrink wrap, a bigger one here, to cover everything up. So now we just got to get the soldering done. So we'll start with the negative. The cable from 3D Cycle Parts is pretty stiff, so we're just going to twist that. Then we'll twist this more flexible wire around the more stiff wire, making sure we got a decent connection before we start the soldering. There you go. I'm just going to add a little bit of solder flux to it to make sure we got a good clean connection. Alright, so now we're going to add the solder. It's important not to just drip the solder on top. It's best if you just heat this whole thing up and then let the solder melt on top. That way it gets in there really nicely. There we go. See how that's melting in there? There you go. Alright, the first round we didn't get quite enough solder in it, so we'll heat it up again. Just take your time. You don't want to get it too super hot where it starts melting all the insulation around the cables. There you go. Not the prettiest, but we got a good solid connection. So now we'll do the red lead. So we'll twist the flexible part onto the more rigid wire. Okay, now that we got those soldered together, we're going to run the heat shrink over the top of them, and then use the heat gun to insulate this connection. There you go, those are insulated, and then we'll run the larger heat shrink over both of those. There you go, let's heat that up. There we go. That's our whole connection. This is the part we soldered. This will be the connector for the KLR and that we bought from 3D Cycle Parts, and then this will be the connectors for both the left and right hand grips. Let's go plug it in now. Okay. Under here and connect it right there. Alright, so we'll take this thing and move it back up and insulate all these. Cover it up with this little rubber sock. We'll replace this zip tie here with a new one. Tie this down again, nice and secure. You want to make sure this is out of the way because this is where the tank will sit. The tank rests right here on these little plastic sections. Okay, there you go, all secure. Now let's check and see if it works. There we go, moment of truth. Since it's swished, it should not start. It doesn't. You turn the power on. Looks like we got a light. There we go. You got the low setting, one of the mediums, another medium, and then hot. Actually looks like 5 settings. Now see if we have any issues with the cables again. Check the binding. Looks good. All right, there they go. They're getting nice and warm. So we're going to turn it off before we kill the battery and then put the tank back on. Before we install the tank, we just got to make sure that the area is clear. Remember, we're going to be connecting the tank to this hose here. And then also we'll have to connect the tank level indicator, the fuel indicator, to this connection here, the electrical connection. And these are the 2 bolts that hold it on. So we'll get those out of the way. And then don't forget our little block. We'll just put our block right down here. And that'll make it easier to get our hands in and connect all these once we get the tank in place. Looks like it's in place.
Here's the fuel indicator. We'll run that little cable down here and connect it over here to the side. That's in. Make sure it clicks. There it is. Push this on there. Okay. I think that's on. Okay, that was a pain. Now we're going to move the block and just carefully set it down. Line up the holes. And latch it down. Okay, and we'll tighten them using a 10 millimeter. Okay, and finally, put the vent on and the tank will be connected. There we go. Now we'll just turn the bike on and make sure that the actual tank is connected. And sure enough, it is. We got fuel level indicator. All good. So the last part is to install the bar ends, the little weights, and make sure you use a little bit of Loctite and a 6 millimeter Allen. So here you can see the spacing between the throttle side, a little space there, and a little gap here as well. So that's it. That's all you need to do if you want to install the Koso heated grips that we purchased on Amazon. Now, there's some advantages that this has to the other ones. I think one of the biggest advantages, it looks really great. You've got this integrated controller right here, so you don't have to have a separate controller like a lot of the other brands. The biggest downside, however, is that you had to do a little bit of modifications to actually get them on. We had to shave about 5 millimeters off the grips to make them work. Other than that, we're pretty happy with the install. They seem to be warming up really nicely. The install wasn't too bad other than taking off the tank. So I could fully recommend, at least so far, these Koso heated grips. So if you're interested in more KLR modifications, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of future updates.